Most people trap themselves by thinking physical reality is the only plane of existence, but that one belief can keep you very stuck. See, the physical world is like a mirror house. Every boundary and obstacle that you face, every limitation you see is just a reflection of your current frequency and your state of consciousness. But the sticky thing is, like the really sticky thing that gets most people is when you see that said reality or that reflection and you see that as fact, you reinforce it even more. And I had this a lot in my life. For example, when I graduated uni and I was working a job that I didn't see myself working after uni, and the feeling of that, and having a crappy graduate job and thinking this is just reality, I reinforced that belief, and I was caught up in those emotions of thinking like, okay, I'm just gonna have to work this and just slowly like apply for jobs and maybe I'll get a step up. And I thought it would be that process until luckily lockdown happened and I got to tap into my passion more. And I was able to monetize my passion during that period. And it wasn't just the act of me figuring out, okay, I could actually monetize my passion, but it was the feelings and the frequency I was in during that period, because I was in a whole different frequency when I was able to work on my passion day in, day out and start to monetize it. I was in a whole different wavelength because I now knew, oh, wait, I could make money doing what I love. And that put me in a whole different frequency, which shifted my external. It wasn't my external that changed the internal. You need to understand external reality is the illusion. The internal is where it starts. That is the that is the source, right? So when I would initially experience struggle, scarcity, or hardship, I would think, okay, this is just reality. But when I learned to shift from that, and I'm actually reinforcing this frequency. I'm reinforcing this state because I'm stuck in this frequency, and I learned, okay, I need to change my internal state, and that's going to shift my external. But it took me a long time to get my head around it, and it took a lot of research, reading books, and watching videos before it really clicked for me. And I think because during that process, my state of consciousness increased, so I was aware of this fact. But for some people, it might really go in your head, and it might not land in. But for some of you, it really will click. The internal state is more important than the external. When you're judging everything based off your external, the illusion, then you're basing things off the wrong thing. You need to shift internally, regardless of what's going on around you. True freedom comes when you're able to detach seeing external reality as truth. When you're able to operate from internal, regardless of what's going on the external, that's where true freedom comes from, because that's when you are way more in creator mode, if you like, and you're really able to shift. That's when you're really able to shift the external really quick, when you're genuinely steadfast in your internal state. You can shift it without expectations on the external, the mirror, the reflection, right? Because that's all it is. It reflects based on your internal state. And when you get that ingrained into your head, then it's like, it's a big boom, light bulb moment. And things really start to change. And you really stop becoming reactive to the external and being caught up in these repetitive loops that you might catch yourself in. You might catch yourself repeating certain cycles that are very similar. They might be in different locations, different places. You might try move to a whole different location just to kind of get out of it. And sometimes that works because it helps you create a different internal shift. But sometimes you just find yourself facing these same loops, or caught up in these same loops again, because you need to learn how to shift your internal state so you can break out of those loops. You need to learn how to stay steadfast when things are quiet. For example, when you're self-employed and things are quiet, you need to be able to stay steadfast and still work on whatever you need to work on without shutting down or thinking, oh no, this isn't going to work, and backing up on yourself. When you maintain internally in the midst of whatever dramas are going on, in the midst of the storm, and you really prove that to yourself by standing steadfast, that's when things shift. And understand your outer reality isn't fixed, it's fluid. So just shift your internal state, and the mirror has no choice but to change the reflection. Hope this video was useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.